Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's me, Nacy. I did a live stream this morning on my personal social media platform on Facebook and try to tag the group, and for some reason, it's not showing up. I wanted to do the second half of this live stream, and I'm doing it as a pre-recorded video because I'm going to upload it in the group as well on my personal page and also on YouTube. The topic that I want to discuss tonight encompasses possibly 2 to 3 books, okay? Music playing in the background. I don't own any rights to that. I'm just listening to it just to kind of chill out and get in the zone a little bit. Enjoying my cocktail from, I'm going to give a shout out to Jay with Woodward TV. No, he's not paying me to say that, but it keeps my, whiskey and Coke cold, right? Want to get that out of the way. So tonight I'm gonna be jumping all over the place, but I want to get to it, so I don't want to make this too long-winded, but this is a lot of knowledge, a lot of facts that's coming into play. I'm gonna read directly from these books, and I'm gonna try to correlate or tie these both in and give you my own personal opinion, my own theory about what I think is going to happen. And, hopefully you guys can post something in the comments of the video once I upload it. I will try to see if I can do a live stream also within the group, maybe if not tonight, first thing in the morning. So without any further ado, I'm going to talk to you guys about both books. This one is What Will Happen When the Anunnaki Return in 2022. That's the first book. The second book is what I've been talking about, the Blackroots science. There is a Facebook group that does cover this material. So I would highly recommend you guys to go purchase both of these books. There are several other books, though. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus. Also, I would implore each one of you to pick up a copy of The Lost Teachings of Atlantis as well if you have not. This book is a great book. I did have a hard time, and I still having a hard time getting into the book, as well as the book of Urantia. I know Alex is, I got him a copy of that book, and so he's listening to the audio version of the Urantia book. That is a difficult read. And it makes for, I think, some of these books, or most of these books, you're going to get a good sense of the foundation of them. But unless you are centripetal, or unless you have entangled, or you've Christed, right? You've popped your pineal gland where you're back into the system, and you have a direct connection with the creator of all, the All-Father, and the Akashic Records, it's going to be hard for you to understand, right? Because that's the part that I'm having a problem with. I'm not entangled as of yet. Hopefully this year in 2020, I will be entangled. That is my goal anyway. So with these books, I'm going to try to lay the material and give you guys time to listen to what I'm saying, read the information, process it, and possibly, like I said, come back with a Q&A, or, you guys pose the questions in the comments. So the first book, Blackroots Science. It is a good read. I am right now in chapter 9, the Society of the Black Nation. I want to read this one part to you all, and then I want to give you my theory or my hypothesis on this, and then I'm going to take it into the next section, all right? Basically, what it says here, it says that, let's see where I'm going to start off here, because I have so many things that are flagged. I'm just going to read. The color black contains all colors in itself. Hence, when the 8 million original gods made themselves new bodies, they covered them in skin whose color is black, getting it directly from the ether. Because the gods create all plants and animals from their own bodies, they need to have all colors stored in a single color in their creative germ, which is called the dark dominant gene or germ, the source of what modern people call melanin. Upon arriving on the first earth, the one mind of God incarnated instantly into 1,008 million bodies, as already said. Half of them, 504 million were female and the other half were male. Each pair of male and female gods are called soulmates. They always create in soulmate pairs, even when large groups, because all creation has male and female or negative and positive polarities. The 8 million original people then proceeded to instantly create perfect plants and animals called the original totems, from which all evolutionary life was formed. I'm going to jump down. I'm going to skip around, okay? Because there's sections that I want to call to attention to. The next part is God's purpose for creating the universe after universe is to increase him or herself. Each person who completes the 7 great rituals becomes a full God, exactly like the original people. At that moment of completion, God rediscovers himself or herself anew, as if he or she had never existed before. That is how God renews him or herself, thus overcoming the stagnancy that would be the case in an externally all-knowing being who never changes. I'm going to jump down. All things without exception are contained in God. God will experience all that is contained in him or her. He or she knows all, but has not experienced all. He or she uses the creation for this purpose of experiencing all that is known, including what is called evil. Hence, 6,000 years ago, a god by the name of Yahweh, called Yokub in other ancient scripts, was born here on earth. He, together with about 60,000 volunteers who were called the Elohim, made non-blacks in our image. They made them by suppressing the dominant black gene and slowly unfolding the recessive light gene over a period of 7 generations of offspring, or 200 years. Hey, be quiet, guys, I'm reading. Sorry, it's my chihuahuas. This caused the appearance of the first light race born to black people. After another 200 years of deliberate and careful breeding, they caused the second light race to appear out of the first. Then, 200 years later, the third race appeared. And finally, 66 years after the appearance of the third race, the yellow race, the fourth race, Caucasians, appeared. These 60,000 people, Yahweh and the Elohim, thus initiated the modern age and the process that would eventually bring our divine kingdom to a temporary end. That in brief is the sacred history leading from the first earth to our earth now, and to the present situation or cycle called evil, which was preordained for the last 6,000 years. And I would state, I put it in a question mark. That ties back to what? The fall of Atlantis or Lemuria, right? Mu, when we had this great cataclysm that came about, because you know this planet is on a cyclical time clock or time frame. And so that being said, the cataclysms come through ever so many thousands of years. Civilizations rise and they get the height of the civilization, where you see we have evidence all around the world. This is not conjecture. This is fact. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pyramids and buildings underneath the sea, right? Massive structures that they don't teach us about. They don't bring it up in our history on this planet. It is all around us, and they make these excuses up of, well, these were just here, and these civilizations built these temples. The pharaohs built them to to bury their dead. But yet we have not found any bodies in these buildings. Now, what I wanted to say from that perspective is, this is one root race. The Blackroot science is the Blackroot race account of what has transpired. And this has been handed down from the tribe in Botswana, this book is. And from there, all of the Aboriginal indigenous beings, like such as myself and these avatars, have this teaching that we have shared, passed down from generation to generation in the Black avatar or the Black community, right? Now, these are the indigenous people, the Aboriginal people all around the world. Here in the United States, we do not have the privilege, or now we have the privilege because of this tradition, or this oral translation has been given and put in a book, right? Before that, we were not taught that. We were taught our education system and our government system by none other than, and I'm not picking when I say this because this is all fact, by the European colonizers, right? They brought this over here. We eat the way they taught us to. We are in the educational system, the financial system, the monetary system on this planet is all ran by you know who over in Great Britain and also Rome, right? We know this. We're all privy to that information. I'm not spilling over conjecture. This is all fact, right? So now, what I thought was interesting, and like I said, this is on chapter 9. I'm going to just read this first section and then I'm going to skip around because I want to bring some points to this. My first point, though, was I have read something similar in the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, right? And I've also read in the Lost Book of Inky, right? I've read that too. So my point to this is when we talk about in the Judaism, the Christian or the Islam, the text, when we say Elohim or when we say Yahweh, you have to look at the lineage of where these words started from. And if you go back to ancient Sumer or Kemet or Kim, which is short for knowledge or alchemy and science, and you get the understanding that these beings, these gods, were here on this planet, and I'm going to say lowercase g, okay? They were here on this planet. They kickstarted the civilization, and that has tied in from the past on these clay tablets. And so for me, I'm hearing the story and I've heard it multiple times. So I'm going to have to state that these are different texts, different authors, different people all around the world have said the same thing. So I'm going to say that this is fact because we're seeing it too often. This is often not the story. It's often the story that we're seeing all around the world. So these beings came here, and that is the Eric von Däniken, the grandfather of the ancient astronaut theory. He posed questions. And these beings, when we talk about God or Yahweh or Jehovah in the text, we're not talking about the creator of all things. We're not talking about Yod-He-Vah-He, or God. We are speaking about the Elohim. And people say Elohim is a singularity. No, it's plural for gods. It's plural for the extraterrestrials, okay? So Yahweh is better known as Enlil. Enlil. And Enlil it states here that Enlil was born on this planet, and he created, out of DNA or experiments, he created these multiple breeds of human. And I would state one step further, it has been written, and this is factual proof in genetics, that the black avatar, like me, a black avatar, is the only avatar species that can produce offspring for every single race. Okay? And that's the truth. That is the truth of it. That's been scientifically proven that the black woman kickstarted all of the races. And I'm just putting it out there. Not throwing any shade on anybody. You can go look that information up. I'm not telling you something you don't know. So, my point is, though, like I said in my other video, and if you haven't watched it on social media, then you're going to be kind of like, okay, what did you say? Let me just recap. Basically, what I'm saying is that this book puts in perspective the black race, the indigenous race on this planet all around the world, and it tells you in no uncertain terms who we are and what we possess and how we got to this point. Okay, it's crazy that this knowledge has been hidden all this time, and it's not being shared and it's not being taught. And if you start speaking on these things, then you're going to be considered to be a racist or a person who is starting a hatred war. No, I'm not. I'm just reading what's in the text. Don't necessarily agree with everything that I'm reading, but I'm just sharing the information, right? Because if you don't share what you read and what you've learned, then you don't grow as an individual and you don't share that knowledge with other people, right? So this is my point. All of this right now. So Enlil and Enki, his brother, and Nimhergzog also. Okay, interesting fact about these three trios. Now, these beings came here millions of years ago, thousands of years ago. I'm not gonna say millions, thousands of years ago, and kickstarted this race of beings on this planet. The story has always been that they wanted to mine gold, but I'm beginning to think maybe they did want to do that, but they also wanted to create this being, this indigenous being. And with them doing that, what they did was they blew up a star. Okay? When they blew up this star with this weapon, they chose a star system way away from where their planet was, their home planet, Nibiru, what we call it, Nibiru. It's also called Ashtari, okay? They call it Ashtari. They don't call it Nibiru. We call it Nibiru. It's actually called Ashtari. And then when they did this, okay, they were sanctioned to do this with an experiment in mind. So when they had this star that blew up, remnants of this planet was floating out in space, and they seeded the planet, right? There were beings that were already here. They were already here, and they seeded this planet. So it states in no uncertain terms that they used this energy weapon to blow up a star system. And that to me is kind of, man, I don't know. How did they pick a star system? Don't know how that went. They were sanctioned to do it. They killed millions of people, millions of life to create a life, right? A chunk of that planet broke off, and that's the planet we know now as Ki, or Earth, or Urantia. And there was already a hominid being that was here. All they did was tinker with that hominid being. So basically, we've been an experiment from day one. Now, I know they tried to kill us off multiple times, and they tried to let these cataclysms come in, but the creator of all things wasn't having it. So now we're here. We're here today. We're here today. Fast forward now, and it's like, there's a lot of information to take in. It's a lot to think about. So what I'm saying is, we were created as an experiment. Some say a slave race. Some say to mine gold. I'm just telling you what I've read. I don't know. You're going to have to meditate and pray on that one. I can't tell you why we were created. I could say we were probably an experiment, yeah, but the creator of all sanctioned it, right? He sanctioned for us to live. Let me put it that way. So now we're here. The truth is a motherfucker. I'm just sorry to say it. Truth is hard to hear. Now, interesting part that I wanted to share with you all before I get into the Society of the Black Nation. When I was reading this earlier, I thought, this book, what will happen when the Anunnaki return? I was watching a video earlier this afternoon before I took my little power nap, and a young lady on there stated that the Anunnaki will return on 2/22/22. Today is the 20th, so 2 days from now. I shared that information with my son, Alex, and Alex was like, Mom, what do I have to tell you? Well, I have to break this down in any further way than I can. We're already here. Okay. He's speaking of the Anunnaki inwardly, being a Jew inwardly, being entangled, right? Being entangled with the creator of all. I'm speaking of these extraterrestrial entities that are going to come back through stargates and take over this planet and shut this shit down. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So let's just make sure we understand it. From Alex's perspective, I understand what he's saying, right? The teachings of Yeshua or Christ, right? When you are entangled, you take on the yoke of Christ. You are anointed, meaning this third eye is open and you have a direct connection with the creator of all. That is entanglement. That is being centripetal, okay? That is what we all should aspire to as human beings, right? And it doesn't help that we have had food contaminated, GMOs, water, the air we breathe, the chemicals all around us to keep us dumbed down at a lower state of vibration. Now, you got to say, who the hell is doing that? Because in one book, it paints the Anunnaki as being this great civilization, this great this great extraterrestrial race that came here and was doing, doing all these things for humans, and they and in the book it says they stay out of human affairs, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Let me read this part. So when we talk about Enlil and Enki and Nimhergzog or Ninlil, right? We talk about that, and it talks about the Anunnaki in great length. And there's a video that I'm going to share within the group that talks about the Lyran Wars. We need to talk about that too at some point. But the Nordics, the Anunnaki, the Lyrians, they are supposed to be the most considered extraterrestrial races out there on the planet. Unfortunately, a lot of writers, when they write about the Anunnaki, they make it seem like they are, they control our minds and they disrupt order in societies, and they have a malicious agenda. And basically in this book, it states that the Greys are the one that's doing this. Now, who created the Greys, right? We'll get to that. Maybe not in this video, but we're going to cover that. Anyway, when you talk about the divine trio, right? Enki, Enlil, and Ninlil or Nimhergzog. She goes by different names. She's also known as Isis, right? It talks about her, and it says that the word from the Anunnaki dictionary or the Bible, it talks about her in detail, and I have that too over here. It says, the Anunnaki personage with mighty powers and major influence on the creation of the human race. That's Nimhergzog. Angel Gabriel is not totally and exactly what the Judeo-Christian tradition portrays. The original name is Gabriel, the guardian of Jannah Adan or Eden, Garden of Eden in Sumerian, and in Anak in Ninlil or Ninlil. Gabriel is also called Gab or Gabrael. Gab means female guardian, a governor or a protector. This explains why Angel Gabriel was represented to us as the guardian of the guardian of the Garden of Eden. In ancient texts of the Sumerians, Akkadians, and civilizations neighboring regions, Gab-er was the governor of Jannat Aden. In various Semitic languages, Jannat means paradise and Eden is Aden or Aden. This is how we got Garden of Eden. Angel Gabriel, the Sumerian, is more than a guardian because he was called Ninti, which means verbatim, life woman. Let that sink in. In other words, Angel Gabriel was three things: the governor of the Garden of Eden, a woman, not a man, because she was described as the female who created life, and 3, a master geneticist who worked on the human DNA creation of the human race. The word Gab-er was phonetically pronounced as Gab-er. The early Arabs adopted it as al-Jabbar, meaning many things, including force, authority, might, governing from al-Jabbar. Important words, nouns, adjectives were derived. For instance, the word Jabber means mighty, powerful, capable, huge, giant, like the giants in the Bible, Sumerian Anunnaki epics. The Jabberi is the plural of al-Jabbar. I hope I'm saying this right. After the Arabs were converted to Islam, al-Jabbar became al-Jabbar, one of the attributes and names of Allah or God. In the Anak, the Anunnaki language, the words Jabrat means exactly the same thing in early Aramaic and modern Arabic: authority, power, rule, or reign. It is obvious that the Ankh language deeply influenced Eastern and Western languages. One more surprise for the readers. We find striking similarity in the Western vocabularies, Latin, Anglo-Saxon, French, and Roman languages. Gab-er became governor in French, governor in English, and gubernator in Latin, The Sumerian Gabriel was also known under different names according to the Sumerian text as Nimhergzog, meaning the lady governess of the mountain and elevated region of the Garden of Eden. Gabriel, Gabriel, as a female Anunnaki, was the first to experiment the copies of a human, later to be called Adam or Adamu. But first, Gabriel created 7 different types of Homo sapiens, which was our cousins, by using the DNA of a primitive being and the DNA of the Anunnaki and the clay admixture. Gabriel's origin creations were not very successful. Later on, Gabriel used a most unexpected genetic source to create the final copy of the modern man. There are plenty of evidence and historical statements to prove this point, and all starts with the name Nin-Il, sometimes referred to as Nin-Ti. In Ankh, Sumerian, and Babylonian languages, the word Ti means rib. In later versions of the ancient text, Nin-Ti became the lady of the rib and also the lady of life and the lady of creation. Consequently, Adam, the man, was created from the rib of Gabriel, the female Anunnaki, the lady of the rib. This contradicts the story of the creation of Adam and Eve as told in the Judeo-Christian tradition. I gotta put the hammer down on that. Y'all heard that. Let me say that one more time. It's a contradiction of the Judeo-Christian tradition. According to the Sumerians and the Ankh, a woman created man. It was not a man who created woman, Eve. And the female Anunnaki, Gabriel, Nin-Ti, Nin-Il, used her rib to create Adam. The early translators, and possibly intentionally misleading scribes and ursers of the truth of the ancient texts and epics of Sumer, got it wrong, and their fake story of the creation of Adam and Eve invaded the Hebraic, Christian, and Islamic holy scriptures. I'm going to leave it at that. I done said enough on that one. Hey, you can take it with a grain of salt. I'm just telling you what it says. I'm just telling you what it says. Could it be that everything is inverted on this planet? I would say yes, it is. I would dare say, yeah. I would say yes. Everything is inverted. As is above, so is below. Now, it says in this book, and I want to flag this out. Do the Anunnaki speak or understand our language? English, right? It says all spoken languages derive directly from extraterrestrial languages. And that's a fact. All terrestrial languages derive from the Phoenician alphabet. Many of the Phoenician linguists and early creators of the alphabet borrowed numerous words and expressions from the higher class of the Anunnaki. Ancient Phoenician texts and poems recorded on tablets found in Tyre, Sidon, Ugat, Amrit, and the island of Ardwad included reference to the symbols and words taken from the written language of the upper class of the Anunnaki. The first genetically created race could not speak, and the concept of language is completely unknown to humans. Now, the hominid beings that were here, our cousins, before they tinkered with the DNA of that species and did the admixture of clay and Anunnaki DNA, they were telepathic. We know this, right? We've talked about this before. And if you're joining me, you didn't know that, they were telepathic. When they tinkered with their genetics and created these carbon copies of these humans, or started making these copies of the humans, they were dumbed down. We were dumbed down. And we were not able to speak at that point. Thousands of years later, the Anunnaki taught the new race of humans how to speak, read, and write. And that's where you get the story of Enoch and the angels that fell to the earth and that taught men all these different potions and tinctures and makeup and how to adorn the eyelids and medicines and war and things like that. When you read the story in the book of Enoch, how these demons, as they say, came to earth and slept with the daughters of man, of Adamu, right? You get the sense of this big, huge thing that happened when these giants were created, right? And we know the story. We've read it, right? Or you have read it, hopefully. So they instructed us how to read and write and speak. Members of the early Anunnaki expedition to Phoenicia taught the Phoenicians how to create their language and revealed to them the secret, powerful names and attributes of the Ba Shalama root. They instructed them not to use these words for the ill purposes. Particularly the word Baal Shemal Al is never to be said, spelled, or written. Later on in history, the Hebrews religiously observed this instruction and pronounced the word of the name of God became forbidden. The language of the Anunnaki was taught to the early Phoenicians who lived in the ancient cities of Tyre, Sidon, Babylos, Africa, and Batron. Phoenicia borrowed her alphabet from the Anunnaki. The seven powerful names and attributes of the Anunnaki's grand leader were given to the early Phoenicians in a ritual ceremony in Tyre. Yes, extraterrestrials are capable of speaking and understanding many languages, including our own. They assimilate and compute words and sentences with mathematical formulas and numerical values. Some extraterrestrials have limited vocal cords capabilities, but they can very quickly acquire additional vocal faculties by rewinding sounds and vibes. Contrary to what many contactees and others said, extraterrestrials from higher dimensions do not talk like computerized machines. They have their own language, but also they can absorb and assimilate all languages on Earth in a blink of an eye via the reception and emission of a special memory. Now, what I found interesting in this book, it talked about when they return. A couple of things. What are plans of the Anunnaki for the return in 2022? Some say February. I have to continue to read this book. I wanted to jump on here and point out some things because right away it clicked to me when they said that there is going to be a cleansing of this planet. And we know that the poles are moving. And that's what I hypothesize that this cleansing is going to come from. The pole excursion. And that's going to be more than likely in the next 10 years or so. Because of the way the Earth is losing its magnetic shield, it's dropping, right? So we know this. This is scientifically proven. You can go out there and look it up for yourself. You can check out Suspicious Observers on YouTube and on their website, quakewatch.net. You can go out there and start reading and understanding what has been taught all around or documented all around this world in different indigenous tribes. They have documented what the sun does to this planet. That's facts. But it says that they're going to come back and civilization is going to change this year. And that's the mind-blowing stuff. What I found really suspect in this book. I gotta take a drink on this one. Because you got one part of the section of the book saying the Anunnaki's this, that, and the other. And you got this other stuff back here in the back where it says, will they have a mind control situation when they come back? And they talk about these humans that have been contaminated with the Gray's DNA. I'm here to say this. They're talking about installing or implanting a conduit in each one of our brains. Yeah, that part. How will the conduit be installed? Does it require surgical operation? Is this a kind of implanting a third eye in our brain or some Hindu or Buddhism's talk about? Installing the conduit in the brain cells does not require surgical operation. In terrestrial terms, it's like activating your cellular phone without going to the telephone company. It's like transferring money from your account to another account without going physically to a bank, carrying money bills and notes and physically giving the amount to a bank clerk to deposit it in another account. It is transferred automatically via wire, a non-physical operation, but with Anunnaki, it will be a higher level of a more advanced technology that human mind will understand in due time. Something Alex said, I'm going to tell you like this. When I did this paper in 2020 and I read about Lord Inky and his message to mankind, we need to stay out of the wars with the gods, lowercase g, these extraterrestrials. I ain't even going to call them gods. I'm going to say this. Ain't no way in hell they're going to put something in my brain and have me piped in. If we don't become centripetal right now, people, and come entangled with the creator of all before these beings come back, I dare say, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. There are multiple extraterrestrial races on this planet, and the Greys are the ones that are in the underground military bases and who abduct people and who have been experimenting on people for thousands of years. And they talk about the Greys in great detail and how they will rid them of this planet. Okay? How will the Earth be protected from further contamination from the Greys? Point exactly. The Anunnaki will create an electroplasma laser shield around the orbit of the Earth, preventing any hostile extraterrestrial civilization from conquering Earth. The shield will be an invisible plasmic belt surrounding the whole planet, Earth. The plasmic belt will look like the zone of extremely extensive heat that will melt anything might try to go through it. On the inside, the mind of the human beings will be constantly monitored by the Anunnaki societies on Earth, which report directly to the High Council on Ashtari, or we call it Nibiru. A new conduit will be implanted in the brain cells of each human, so a new form of a global truth governing the whole Earth and based totally on the scientific facts will shape up socially code and ethics, thus eliminating erroneous personal interpretations of law and order. It is no longer special interest groups, influential lobbying organizations or powerful lawmakers will dictate laws and influence jurisdictions. No, we're just going to be influenced by the Anunnaki. What the hell is this bullcrap? I'm like, when I read that shit, I was like, oh, hell no. We're going from worse to worse. I know we're going from bad to worse, right? I'm sorry. They're not going to implant shit in my head. I'm not going to be a mind-controlled drone. Okay? I'm not going to be that way. It says, the Anunnaki believe that a negative and malicious mind is as dangerous as an atomic weapon. Therefore, he, Anunnaki, will eliminate all forms of governmental institutions, installations, and places such as NATO, European military posts, strategic ballistic missiles and nukes, launching pads and bases, the White House, city halls, European Fund, the Internal Revenue Service, the KGB, the CIA, International Money Fund, the United Nations, World Bank, mansions for governors, so-called palaces of justice, military high command centers, and all establishments that reflect authority over people and create fear in the hearts and minds of the population. They will all disappear. And it also says that the Anunnaki are vegetarians and that we will have no more need for eating meat. It says, impose on humans a vegetarian diet so that will replace meat. Will the Anunnaki give us new direction about feeding the world with soy and wheat, etc.? Although many anthropologists and scientists and doctors of nutrition made it clear that the human body needs meat for physical and mental development because they found out that back in history when our early ancestors started to eat meat, their brain size increased and that their mental faculties developed rapidly. While this is true, many humans who kill animals and eat their flesh will be forever isolated from cosmic civilizations, which are more developed and richer and more rewarding. In the eyes of the Anunnaki, only savage creatures kill other living creatures, referring to animals, that is, to feed themselves. The Anunnaki do not advocate eating meat because it deprives living creatures from living, and by their standard, it is a crime. However, taking into consideration the physical development needs of the human body, the Anunnaki will substitute meat with a new sort of seafood that will grow in the sea, which will have the taste of fish and also the necessary nutrients. I find that highly suspect, don't you? Also, they will develop certain DNA in trees capable of producing milk-like substance and fruit that will taste exactly like meat, and it will be much more nutritious and beneficial to the physical and mental needs of humans. What will happen to all the homeless pets who infected owners were destroyed? The animals have a sort of animal conduit that intuitively link them to the animal communities. They will join the newly established animal kingdoms in areas where humans will not have access to. The animals will be relocated to places and zones where they will not be exposed to dangers from other bigger animals that could devour them, because the Anunnaki consciously will alter the DNA of humans to a degree where the human race will lose taste and interest in meat. The same thing will happen with animals, big and small. It will be an earthly cosmic cleansing in taste and physical priorities. The animal will live on natural resources on Earth. Now, it talks about the final clash with the Anunnaki. And it talks about these greedy, corrupt executives people in power, especially world religion and churches. And it talks about what's going to happen when these beings land. It says judges, lawyers, county clerks, prison guards, presidents, kings, governors, mayors, all government employees, social workers, child agency, hospitalization, hospital billing, psychiatrists, psychologists, hospital janitors. Since the Anunnaki technology is going to keep us healthy, there will be no need for the hospitals or clinics other than those devoted to childbirth, and much of the work there will be done without the need for people. In addition, there will not be any incidents of mental health. This will eliminate the positions of most doctors and nurses and additional employees. There will be no feeding or hoarding, since everything will always be available, but you will not be able to be richer than your neighbor. Equality will be established and appreciated by those of us who are not contaminated by the greed and meanness of the Greys. And it talks about the Greys. And it says, and it talks about the people that have the Gray's disease. It says, in addition, there will be some miscellaneous professions that will not remain, since they will be no longer needed and appreciated. For example, the fashion industry, with its cruel attempts to make women into slaves or someone else's ideas of beauty, will entirely disappear. Beautiful clothing will be created by individual designers or by any who likes to indulge in it as a creative hobby. Advertising, of course, will vanish as well. Those miscellaneous jobs will be eliminated, include runway models, beauty contest organizers, manicurists, cosmetologists, advertising commercials, and actors and voiceover artists. They talk about how they are going to cleanse every single thing on this planet, and anyone from the category that has the Gray's disease or Gray's contamination will be wiped off the face of this effing planet. And I'm trying to get to that part where it gives a list of people. It talks about rapists. Pedophiles is at the top of the list. People who exhibit light Gray's DNA contamination. People who are willing to advertise products that may be harmful for gain. People who are willing to import products that may be harmful. People who object to social reform that may help the greater numbers of others, such as healthcare or better equalization of income for gain. People who are engaged in fur trade. People who are willing to influence others through brainwashing advertising, such as cosmetic industry or games. People who believe in a discipline requires physical punishment in children or adults. Middle echelon executives who only take orders from the superiors as their corporations are destroying the economy of their own countries to save their own skin. Those who, in the name of fashion and beauty, have hurt countless young girls who have succumbed to eating disorders, some of whom have actually died, while the owners and designers made a fortune for themselves. Irresponsible parents who allow their children to grow up with the Gray's values rather than human and Anunnaki values. Hunters of animals who believe that they are doing it only for food, but do not feel a joy in killing. Or do feel a joy in killing, and I think that's a typo. Owners of factory farms whose animals are tormented but live a miserable life. People who eat any form of meat. The Anunnaki believe in a strict vegetarian diet supplemented by milk and eggs from animals that are treated humanely and allowed to live out their life comfortably and die naturally. Those who torment animals. Those who destroy lives and reputations by identity theft. Lawyers and judges who play games at legal systems for their own gain. Sending free child molesters, murderers, and other violent offenders in the name of a reasonable doubt. Any politicians, military personnel, or anyone else engaging in trade with the Greys, allowing them to continue their atrocities in exchange for technology and military knowledge. And it says child molesters, abusers, senior abusers, spouse abusers, those who commit violent robberies, illicit drug manufacturers, distributors and pushers, those who engage in enslaving women and girls and young boys in prostitution and sex trafficking rings, criminals who use their own form of religion as an excuse for their heinous crimes. This includes all religious fanatics such as suicide bombers. Those who destroy lives by depriving them of the ways to support themselves for their own greed. This includes the top echelon of corporate executives who have lost any sense of humanity in their treatment of thousands of people and feel that this is strictly business. Elected officials who have sold out for power and greed, who are willing to destroy their own countries to aggrandize themselves. Elected officials who are willing to participate in destroying the ecology of the planet because of the close association with oil. Oh boy. Oil and forms of commercial energies producing countries and their corrupt rulers. I'm telling you, it seems like the whole entire planet is populated with Gray's DNA or Gray's disease. It says Gray's DNA has created greed, violence, and unbelievable cruelty within our nature. Such characteristics were not part of the original DNA material used to create humans, since the original DNA was given by the Anunnaki themselves, who had intended to create human beings in their image. Therefore, each person must examine his or her life carefully. The list of offenses is extremely long, but here are some examples of people who are contaminated by the Gray's DNA. They are divided into 3 groups. I'm telling you, this is a lot. And it says, anyone deliberately sending a computer virus for fun. People actively engaged in aggressive takeovers, thus destroying the livelihood of many. People who are willing to spend millions of dollars on frivolous pursuits, diamond-studded collars for their dogs, who really don't care about anything but love and food, right? $200,000 wedding cakes, while millions around the world are starving. Whoo! I'm telling you, when I read that, I was like, I gotta take a break. I need a drink. This is some serious shit, y'all. This is some serious stuff. So if you kick back and you read this stuff and you think, and then you come back to this Blackroots science, and this is one of many root races that have been on this planet. They state in this book that once these copies of these humans were created from the black race, there's where the greed started. And then when you have these other extraterrestrials putting their hands in the pot, because you know this is a repository. This is a institution or a school. And so you have multiple races that come here and tinker with our DNA and our genetics. So you have different species of extraterrestrials that live among us, right? We know this. But we also have the offspring, their offspring, and their DNA is within several different humans on this planet. Every extraterrestrial race has a race here on this planet. And it's an education, it's a school, it's a lab, it's a prison, is what the hell this is. And it talks about now when the great cleansing comes, the black man is going to be on top. The black race is going to be on top. That's what this book says. I'm just reading from the book. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to the race thing, the race baiting, and the oh, I'm better than you, and this race. Every single race on this planet has been enslaved. We're all enslaved now because we're enslaved by these damn extraterrestrials. And they've been tinkering with us for all these years. And now the truth is starting to come out. The disclosure is here. It's coming out. When you have the U.S. Navy on TV saying that there are unidentified aerial phenomena, that they don't know what the hell it is, I beg to differ that some of those UAPs are actually ours. And they're technology from those extraterrestrials. And it's the U.S. government, the black budget U.S. government that doesn't know the other side. The military-industrial complex is playing games, y'all. And we're in the middle of it. I don't think all those craft are ours, but I have a sneaky suspicion that some of them are. And I have a sneaky suspicion that when these extraterrestrials land on this planet and it comes out as such, there's going to be multiple races. It's kind of like Men in Black, where you have all of these, you have a spaceport and you have all these races that come in and out. And they come here from time to time. They stop by. This place was supposed to be a loving place and a garden, right? And it turned out to be a debauchery and filth and corruptness. Not only on this planet, but in this solar system, this star system. There are multiple races that are going to feel the smackdown of the creator of all. I truly believe what my son Alex has said because he is centripetal. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts, it is pulling at my intuition, my higher self to state that it's not only going to be the humans that's going to go through a cataclysm or a great change. It's going to be all these different races because enough is enough. I think the creator has had enough. We're supposed to be one big loving family and we're not. We're not. We're divided, and you have these different extraterrestrials that come here and tell us this stuff, and And be that as it may have truth to it, and it may be true, right? It may be true. But the thing is, we are all one being and one entity as a conscious mind. We need to be cosmically attached to each other, all races, including humans. We need to learn how to love each other. If there's division on this planet now because of race, and this book explains it, and it explains it in detail, and it puts the black race at the top of the pantheon, there's no way in hell that our earthly brothers and sisters of different races are going to accept that. And there's going to be a great change and a great awakening. Now, that leads me into chapter 9, the Society of the Black Nation. And I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to try to, because I don't want to go too long, and I've been on here quite a bit. Next, we will investigate chemistry and see how it relates to physics and astronomy. It does talk about that. I'm going to skip over that section, okay? Like I said, you can buy the book, get in the group, and study it. And it says, but for now, let us sidetrack for a moment from root science so we may hear a story. This is a story from our ancestors about their world before the light-skinned races. Yes, the black people. There was a time when we were the only people on earth. Those are the times in which the events of this story took place. Not just any story, but his story. True history. To understand true history, we first have to know the most fundamental of all fundamental things. That is what our ancestors say. In the beginning and in the end of every universe. Now, remember, creation has no beginning or end, but universes have a beginning and an end because every universe is created for a purpose. When that purpose is fulfilled, creation continues to create the next universe. So they say at the beginning and end of every universe, there is only one person. How many black people are there on Earth today? Over 1 billion. 1 billion separate individual minds means we are divided. In the beginning, we are told there is no division. Now, this doesn't mean that there's only one human being on earth. There are just as many individuals as there are today, but we are united as in one mind. That means every person knows every other person as he knows himself. More than that, every person is every other person. That is divine unity. The reason for mentioning this is because the story we are about to tell is about the organization of the ancient society, which started from unity. It goes that long ago when the first earth had just been completed. At the beginning of the universe, God came as one from the previous universe. That universe had just reached the completion of its purpose, and a new universe, ours, was just beginning. God then divided his mind from unity, or 1 to 2. From 2, he divided again and became 3. And from 3, he became 7. And from 7, he became 12 gods. Another day, we'll hear as to why he went this long route instead of going directly from 1 to 12. But 12 is a crucial number because it has to do with how the original society was organized, right? And I dare say it represents a cycle. The zodiac signs, right? How many signs are in the zodiac, you guys? I can't remember. How many signs? Is it 12? I don't know. Everything is mathematical in this progression. So the 12 gods represent the 12 tribes of the original nation. The only 12 tribes we hear about today are the Jews. Where did they get that from? They certainly did not originate it. They got it from the originators of the true civilization of our ancestors. Each one of the 12 gods as 12 gods as gods like to do, separated into man and woman. They became the 24 original kings and queens of our nation, called the 24 elders. Every two, a man and a woman, became the leaders of the tribe, and as black people like to do, they called them the mother and father of the tribe. The 24 elders decided they needed assistance to help them and lead the nation that was soon to come. As they planned to have a population of more than 1 billion people, they decided that each god will have 12 assistants. The number 12 is not arbitrary. Our ancestors say that nothing the ancients did were arbitrary. Everything they did was totally natural and simple. Therefore, everything has a logical and simple reason. Anyone who tells you that there are mystical things reserved only for the spiritually evolved is either a deceiver or has come under the influence of deceivers. Maybe they have the Gray's disease. Each god, as we said, chose to have 12 assistants. They called the 144 chiefs. The elders had divided each tribe into 6 clans and put 2 chiefs at the head of each one, a man and a wife. Are you surprised that a woman could be a chief? We are taught to believe that women are not the equals of men. After all, didn't they come from our rib? No, they did not. They did not. So, a man and a woman became the joint chiefs of each clan. There were 72 clans in the whole nation. Here's a mystery that ceased to be a mystery for me as soon as I learned it. Every black person, without exception, came about exactly as the 24 elders did. If you remember, I said the 24 elders were originally 12 gods, and each god separated into man and woman. We are told this happens with every 2 black people on earth, brothers and sisters. Before you become a brother or a sister, you were united as one with another. You then separated to be born as a boy and she as a girl. That's true. It talks about that in the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. We were both male and female. We were duality. All right. We split off when we came here, and we split off and we became pairs. That makes sense? So this is true. This is speaking fact and truth because I've read it in other texts. So it's not just one book. So this is true. Okay. It says, peace. Thanks for the information. It's very enlightening. I do have questions for you. Are there really soulmates? How would they recognize each other? How did the ancestors make the scientific information practical in the daily sense? I mean, how did they use it once they understood its nature? I'm afraid science as we know it, as you alluded, has evolved into nothing much more than a bunch of numerical formulas. Are we going to evolve back into the only race on the planet as we were? Is this idea in line with the repetition of cycles that you mentioned? How would the ancestors use the information to fully understand their true purpose on this plane? Yes, every black person on earth has a soulmate. Many people do find their soulmates and live a happy and fulfilled life, but many more do not. It's very difficult to find a soulmate by chance, although it does happen. I do have a video on soulmates if you haven't seen it. You need to scroll on my page and find it. It's there, and I'll try to link it in this video in the comment section so you can read it. I got that from the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, by the way. Okay. The instances where people find their soulmates are much more common among tribal or so-called indigenous people than there are among the Western civilized people. The reason for this is quite obvious. Modern culture has been very successful in disrupting tribal cultures. The people in the old days had definitive and clear scientific system of suiting every person with his or her soulmate. The way white people succeeded in disrupting the aspect of our culture was by teaching young people to be independent of the influence of their elders. That rings so true on so many levels. And I don't want to say white. I just want to say other races, the lighter races. Because we're doing this race thing, right? We're pointing fingers. But there's no way around this because when we're in these bodies, we're in this 3D world or realm. Each race takes on their specific characteristics, right? We're born into these avatar bodies and we're taught, we're indoctrinated, we're this race, we're this religion, we have this financial education, we're separated ourselves into these divisive groups. And that's the one thing that I don't like is that we're divided. I'm reading this book and I understand what it's saying, but I also have to state that we are all in need of love. Every single race around this planet and in the star systems. It doesn't matter if you're human and non-human, you're extraterrestrial, Lyran, reptilian. We all need to have a sense of respect and love for each other. And we need to be able to understand each other. And we need to be able to live peaceably. And this book is pro-black, so I'm not trying to offend anyone of a different race or color. I'm reading the text as it is, and we all understand the history that has transpired with slavery. We understand what has happened in the United States. We understand that there's an agenda and a lie that has been told for thousands of years, and it's been in the making by these corrupted beings that came here and tinkered with our DNA, right? So, I'm not going to go into more of the same of this. I'm going to hold it right here because I don't want this video to be too long, and I think probably some of you have probably fallen away. But my point is I'm going to continue to read this book, and I'm going to continue to bring knowledge to the forefront. And I would dare state that you all probably do need to pick up a copy of this book, as well as the Lost Teachings of Atlantis and this book, What Will Happen in 2022 when Anunnaki Return. And also, I'm trying to see if I have it. I have it back here, but I don't want to grab it. You need to also pick up the Emerald Tablets, the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4. Or you could pick up the Emerald Tablets by, I cannot think of the gentleman's name. I'm trying to see if I've got the book up here. I'll post it. I'll post it in the group, and I'll post it in the comments so you can take a look at the books. But I highly recommend you guys pick up these books and start reading them and get the knowledge that you need to gain, because we are running through this thing exponentially and we're running out of time. And so the more knowledge that you have is the way you can protect yourself and arm yourself against what is going to come, because it's happening. Whether you believe it or not, we're in full swing of these things. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. I just wanted to make this video to bring out highlight some points. My theory on all of this, the takeaway is that we need to read, and we need to research, and we need to get our hands on as many copies of books, because I think at some point is going to come a time where we're not going to have that knowledge anymore. It's not going to be written down, and we're going to have those copies to refer back to, right? And to make an informed, conscious decision, and also to reconnect with the one. We need to become entangled. We need to become centripetal. Okay, there is a video that I'm going to share within the group. Again, talks with Rex Barron Leak Project, with a gentleman who has a organization who helps you to become centripetal. Okay, music, diet, meditation, those types of things. I really truly believe everyone can make that walk and that journey this year in 2022, before these cataclysmic events happen and before this great change happens. We are out of time, and we need to man up, as I like to say it. So you guys have a great evening. Remember, be the change that you want to see all around this planet, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change in this world for future generations that will survive the cataclysm. We need to teach these young ones. We need to teach them the truth. We need to teach them. And remember, there's several root races that are on this planet, and every root race has their own original teachings, and they overlap. Different cycles, different times. I love you guys. Y'all have a good evening. Bye.